2004 graduate of the College of Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts. And you can tell I'm originally from Massachusetts because I can pronounce Worcester. Where he received a Bachelor of Arts in the Classics. And he's a 2008 graduate of the Loyola University New Orleans College of Law, where he served as editor-in-chief of the Loyola Law Review. His poetry has appeared in the Magnolia Quarterly, the Classical Outlook, Town Creek Poetry, the Southern Poetry Anthology, and is forthcoming in the Texas Review and the Connecticut Review. He was awarded first prize in the 2004 Gulf Coast Writers Association's annual Let's Write contest for his poem Pointing to the Brain, and was the runner-up in the 2010 Faulkner Wisdom Poetry Competition for his poem Epithalamium. Chris is currently an attorney in the New Orleans offices of Baker, Donaldson, Behrman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz. He and his wife Emily live in Mid-City, New Orleans, with their son Jack William and 2 cats. And Chris is going to read his prize-winning sequence of poems, which is about excavating the ruins of his grandmother's house in Chalmette after Katrina in search of her wedding ring. Just heart-rending sequence, and some additional poems today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Julie, for being the judge of the contest, and I was amazingly humbled to have been chosen. I know there were a lot of great submissions, so thank you, and thanks to the Tennessee Williams Festival and the Endowment for the Humanities for sponsoring all this. Before I read the poems, there's 2 epigraphs to the poem, and these epigraphs tend to kind of not be in fashion these days, but I chose these for a specific reason to set the tone for the poem. The first is from the book of Genesis, the second is from the Odyssey, and if you'll indulge me, I'm actually going to read some of the Greek from the Odyssey, because again, this was a post-Katrina poem, and the foreignness of the whole thing, I think, kind of is part of what this is about. The Nephilim, my grandmother's flooded house in Chalmette, for Zelda. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. Genesis chapter 6, verse 7. And this is the English translation of the Greek. This is from Homer's Odyssey, book 11. My son, how did you come beneath this darkness, being still alive? It is hard for the living to see these places, for between us and them there are great and terrible waters. Teknon emon pos elthes hupos zophon eorenta, zoos eon, chalakon de tare zoisen harastai, meso gar megaloi patamoi kai dena chreethra. Part 1, Deucalionids. And the title comes from the myth of Deucalion and Pyrrha, who were the 2 people who survived the ancient flood in the Greek myth. And they were told after the flood to regenerate humanity that they were to throw the bones of their mother over their shoulder, which ultimately wound up being rocks from Mother Earth. The waters broke from the void before first light, a divinity ripping through the trembling flesh of marshes and the levee's old clay thighs, covering every mile of St. Bernard Parish. Houses with their cement slabs have floated light as the rinds of watermelons you ate as a boy and chucked into Lake Catherine, swelled to overflowing by the god that surged into the Wrigley's estuary and left an afterbirth of sweet crude leaked from foundered tanks. Cars hang like carrion birds on the highest branches and torn roofs. Leached of mud and floodwaters, the houses we pass cry out broken window panes, duct-taped fridges, and a stillness that leaves us on the dead grass of this woman's home, like so many thrown bones. Part 2, Diagenesis. Dig deep enough, down through the earth, past the mud and river silt and unglued carpet, down through the deposits of old seawater, fossilized hydrocarbons, dissolved furniture and drywall, and you may find the room your father slept in as a boy. Further down, among the shades that have rotted off the windows as if centuries have passed, among the salt-burned photos and the ectoplasm of oil sheens, you will discover the face of your grandfather, buried in 1965 just before Betsy, smiling in the viscous trench you have dug to see what lies in the muck. Along faults of water lines, the walls have fractured, collapsing like shale under the pressures of mold and sagging gypsum board. The air is heavy, and the subterranean murk pulsates a breathless heat in these final depths of a long, humid summer. Turn the shovel again, and something glitters in the hole like pyrite. A rosary, broken glass, pieces of your grandmother's jewelry that she left behind in a box on the dresser, and years' worth of Mardi Gras doubloons, her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, collected on the corner of St. Charles and Polymnia, fused tight as sandstone in their mildewed protective sheets. Then the shovel strikes the bedrock of the slab. At the bottom, you glimpse your own face next to your cousin's in an old Christmas picture, decomposing among these layers of water and earth, a geology that stratifies your gut, forms stones in your throat. Part 3, katabasis. The word katabasis is a trope in Greek literature that refers to a story of a human being descending into the underworld and then coming back. You must not remain too long in this place, where time does not move and the dead clocks lie with the vastness of geological epochs, their frozen faces ignorant of your presence, gaping from the sludge that sucks the soles of your boots, pulls you down, belching as you balance to keep from falling into the black alluvion. This is the archaeology of gutting your grandmother's house, shoveling mud and leaked crude left by the torrents that ripped through foundations of levees, swallowed the marshes of your childhood fishing spots, drowned the kitchen where your family cooked on Christmas and Thanksgiving, and washed over St. Mark's altar where they baptized you and your sister. You gasp in the rank humidity, disintegrated sheetrock and mold, as a Stygian darkness fills your lungs, and your feet sink further in the Acheron that used to be the main hallway of this house. You stumble through the strata of debris and memories, past phantoms of half-buried clothes that clutch at your ankles, your eyes watering as the carnival doubloons flicker in the ooze like coins in the mouths of the dead. Struggling through the sediment back towards the living room, you reach the window where you first descended into the house and grasp the ledge to climb back into the daylight. Your father and grandmother have been calling for you to come out before darkness rises like a wraith and covers the roads out of the desolation. But inside, you could not hear. No echoes sound in the coagulated mire, only voices that seem to whisper your name from the ground. Part 4, Nicaea. Again, the term Nicaea refers to stories in the ancient Greek literature where someone converses with the dead. Before we can return home, we must spend time probing the dead minnows decomposing in the bedroom, shards of windows staring like lifeless eyes from the dimness, and the inescapable mud that sticks thick as old blood to everything in the house, searching for the wedding ring my grandmother left in the flood. Below the oak root bend of arthritic knuckles, she still bears the mark, rubbed smooth as a riverbed, of wearing for 50 years this symbol of the man she loved, God, her family, and her home, now lost amid the remnants of rushing water and displaced earth. It is the only thing she hopes to take away from this place. From the door of the bedroom, where her jewelry box disintegrated in the ruthless salt surge, we dig trenches 1 foot wide and deep, carrying the shovelfuls of spoil, mixed with bits and pieces of her clothes, earrings, shoes, and bed sheets, out to the front lawn. With no running water, we sieve it all through a window screen, pouring Diet Coke from the trunk of her flooded car into the mud like a drink offering of honey, milk, wine, and blood, to the ghosts that slowly reveal themselves as the dirt washes away, in flashes of silver and gold, speaking to us of past lives and the memories welling in her eyes with every necklace and earring we unearth. We grasp at these apparitions before they slip through our hands and sink back into the blackness, pooling like a lethe below the screen, where the coke and sludge smell of asphodel. As the light fades, we begin to lose hope of finding this one thing she seeks in the destruction that will bring her back to her life before the flood. But then, the smiling curve of a plain gold ring swims up through the fetid bilge, reflecting the houses and the faces of you, your father, and your cousins standing over the screen. And as she slides it onto her hand, her eyes shine with thanks, and the streams of a different flood of salt no levees can contain. Part 5, Nostos. This refers to the return home of Odysseus to Ithaca in the Odyssey. Your father's boyhood home lies in ruins, under the roof and rotted ceiling that sheltered him after his father died. He returns with you once more before the bulldozers come, to cut out pieces of exposed rafters, ribs of old-growth pine running red as marrow, smooth as bones, the length of the house. These boards are heartwood, grown dense with time and 50 years of holding back the rain. All 8x2s, with brains tight and strong as your grandmother's back, who raised 5 kids alone below these beams. He will cut foot-long trivets for his family, relics of this house and all the floodwaters never reached. Now we will always have a foot in Zelda's kitchen. He chooses a joist, seasoned by oven smoke and pot steam, the ruddy color of his skin, with knots like his tears. He saws into the wood, choking. You'll never find lumber like this again. This next poem is from the Southern Poetry Anthology, the Louisiana volume. And I have to say, Julie's in this book as well, and there's also several other folks who are involved with the festival, Darryl Bork and John Bigonnet. This is a fantastic collection of poetry. Pretty much every serious writer of poetry that I know of in the state is in this book, so you should really think about picking it up. I have some copies up here, and there's some in the bookshop, but it's a really well-done collection. I mean, I'm not plugging myself at this point, but anyway. This poem is called Aqua Morta, and that's taken from a poem by Sicilian poet Salvatore Quasimodo. This is in a form that I've been working with the last few years that I call a trinity, which is 3 words per line and 3 lines per stanza. Aqua Morta. The batcher clings around the knees and gnarled limbs of bald cypresses and snagged driftwood like old cartilage. This soil lies eroding as winter currents stretch past ligaments of levees. Silt banks, sagging as thighs, straddle the fall's alluvium. Not quite earth nor river surge, but mud hovering between the waters. Eddies like gasps reveal something unmoved where the depths, blood thick with loam, scour these shoals. Scleroses of tides and riparian clay, where you sink ankle deep and smell the dusk quickening. This last poem I'm going to read today is, Julie referred to in her opening remarks. This is called Epithalamion, and it's from my wife, Emily. And Epithalamion is I guess a modern and an ancient form, but it basically refers to a song that's written upon the event of someone's wedding. Two bayous become a lake in this shoal mud, shallow as shut eyes, where the bottom can only be felt in the dark like breaths. Their mouths open and meet the broad eternity of tides, merging in beds of turtle grass. We see ourselves in the water, swells folding always into each other to create the shore, where Spartina shimmers as we wade through shallows, hazel eyes reflecting September. The brackish tide tastes of warm skin, and your lips feel the memory of rain in this ancient union of Gulf salt and fresh streams. Our legs move as the waves' rhythms surge through us and spend themselves in the ebbs that feed the shrimp and crabs in this fertile silt. We rest on the beach, aglow in the soft fall sun, caressed like sea glass by the breeze. I reach for you as an egret strides, rising from these waters he has known since the nest on the sandbar where he feeds. Your eyes shine. Salt marshmallows, violet and white in the green oyster grass, tremble like reason before the breath of the vast afternoon whose gusts play in your hair. Between us, time goes slow as the growth and erosion of shores. I kneel in the sand and smell the age of an estuary rise around us. The day dissolves in the shimmering of joined bodies of water between the sky and earth and our hands, and I ask you to become a lake with me, to merge our head-watered hearts with the eternal depth of salt that rises in springs, falls in neaps, and reflects us on the mirror of these shoals.
A beautiful, powerful reading. Thank you, Chris. It's an honor and a lot of fun to judge a writing contest.